Okay. Good morning, folks. Welcome. We continue with our mimer, with our Hasidic discourse for Yud Shvat, the 10th of Shvat. Mostly Ligani, God wants to come to his garden. Not just his garden, his bridal chamber, place where there will be a union, a real deep connection. In this world, not in heaven above, in this world, where's that union to be made, that oneness. And it's not just with us, it's with everyone in this world. This is the Jewish mission. The mission is not merely for ourselves, all of humanity ultimately. And it's a battle, because it's a battle of a jungle, a dark world, and we want to create it into a world where God's presence is real. And of course, the result of all that, and that's the result of it. It's not what it is, and that's what's important about Chassidus, is that we are explaining what is, and what is as opposed to what the consequence of something is, for the most part. So what is revelation of God. What will be the consequence of what? Well, there won't be war and greed and so on and so forth. Those, the human things that we are very aware and familiar with. But that's a consequence, an important consequence, and we need to appreciate both. But Chassidus is telling us what is. So in order to wage the battle, God is giving us his foot soldiers, something that no other generation really has had. The previous generations, they weren't the same foot soldiers as we are. They were higher rank. So we're given, particularly our generation, because we're the seventh generation, as Moshe Rabbeinu was the seventh from Avram, from Abraham. The Rebbe is the seventh from the Alter Rebbe. So what are we getting? We're getting, in order to wage this battle, a battle from within and a battle from without, battle from within me, right? To conquer and battle my own darkness, and the battle from without, the darkness in the world around. And that is, then God gives us that which is of the Or Ein Sof, of him, that's L'mayla ad ein tachlis, that's above, beyond any measure, beyond any, to no end. And L'mata ad ein, L'mayla ad ein kates, rather, sorry, Hebrew, above to that there's no end. And L'mata ad ein tachlis, to below, to no end. What does that mean? It means that below means that the light of God, the infinite light of God, will come below and will reveal itself in this world to the lowest level, even to the wicked. It will reveal itself. Now, and that's the metaphor of light. It's a light. A light reveals its source. So just like the ray of the sun reveals its source, right? So it will reveal the light, the source, in this world to the lowest level, even to the wicked, the Ein Sof, the infinite of God. Which, that we get, that we can appreciate. But then means above means uh, to no end, means it's not coming down here in a way of revelation. It's actually hidden. Well, if it's hidden, then who needs it? Well, light, and yet we call it light. We're calling it Or Ein Sof. Well, Or Ein Sof, it's the infinite light of God. And the infinite light of God, um, this is something that's beyond. Now, when we say beyond, something could be beyond, but yet it could be, as we'll see in a moment, um, it can be beyond just because you're too young and not ready for this, you're not old enough, mature enough. But when you become mature, then you'll get it. That's one kind of beyond. But then there's a beyond that is just not meant. It's not something to be revealed. Well, if it's not to be revealed, then what's the point of it? It's because the connection that we have with God, and as a matter of fact, our very soul, which expresses it, is not just things that are revealed, which means a conscious awareness. There are things that we connect to us that are subconscious, that are beyond our awareness, and will actually never have an awareness of. Yet they affect us. Yet they affect us, right? Just to bring out an idea of this is, um, it says when, a child is born, should place in their bassinet a Chumash, a Tehillim, a Tanya. Like, they're aware that there's a Chumash, Tehillim, and Tanya there? Not at all. So you might say, okay, the parents, this way they'll bring up their child, with Torah because they put that into their bassinet when they were young. Okay, there's a truth to that. There's a truth to that. But it's deeper than that. There is a connection then. It's not just for the future. How's there a connection? Well, it's beyond. It's above and beyond. It's not something that we're conscious of. So that's one idea. Further idea in this is that when we speak about the light of God, that is above, beyond um, any kind of expression of light, meaning that we perceive of it, will also be when it's darkness, right? Its expression down here will be a darkness, a hiddenness. So the hiddenness could be like I just gave the example of the chitas, but the hiddenness can also be in things that are a difficulty, a challenge. It's also coming from the Or Ein Sof, right? So so what's again the the two things that we're talking about over here, below until no, until until you know the lowest of the low will be a revelation, and at the same time, above to no end, above meaning something beyond, and it's a darkness. Um, Meaning that it's not revelatory to us, are the two things that we're being given to fight this battle. Let's understand this idea further. Okay, so these two ideas that we're speaking about, Ori and Safe, are ultimately what we call a makif. Now, let's understand, makif means something that's encompassing, an encompassing light of God, as opposed to something that's internalized. Okay. Well, looking in in internalized is like intelligence that brings into the when you understand something and it brings it into your heart. So that's the internal workings of the individual, of the human being, right? That we have an integrated, internalized system that that feeds us just as food is internalized, right? So likewise, the internalized system that we have is one like cause and effect. One thing causes and the an effect. So the cause of the intelligence, meaning when you are aware of something, when you understand something, it has its effect. It has the effect um, in the case of developing an emotion, right? From an emotion, it has its effect. What you feel is what you think about. What you think about is what you talk about. Now, what you think and talk about will bring you to action thereof. Right? That's a pneumius. And then really the internalized that we're talking about over here is in particular when it comes to intelligence and emotions, right? But then there's makif, that which encompasses us. It's not internalized. It's not from understanding. No, because that's internalized. So let's understand. Both these things that we're being gifted from above, from the infinite light of God that is above and beyond, that expresses itself in hiddenness and darkness, and that which comes down and drawn down to the lowest level of the of the divine, that is revelatory, reveals itself. There are two levels of the makif, of this encompassing light. There's a makif that's called Or Chayzer, a light that is, sorry, Or Yashar, a straight light. And then there's a light that is a reflective light, kind of bounces off, rebounding light. Okay. They both are a light, which is funny because light seemingly is something that would be, you would call, maybe something internalized. but it's not. Think about it. The light that comes into my window over here and the light that comes into the window in my house and the light that comes in from the sun from in your home, it's all the same light. It's not integrated. It's not like, oh, here I'm getting, exactly what I need. Am I? No, because the sun is just makif, is encompassing. It encompasses how in my home, your home, and a third person's, and equally, no distinction. That's called makif, right? Integrated means that when I understand something, right? So the more my cup is full in my head, and the more I have an understanding, that will integrate into my feelings. The less I know about something, the less I can think about it, the less I'm aware of it, the less it's going to integrate into my feelings. So if my cup is half full in intelligence, right? Another person has got, 80% full. Well, it'll integrate into their emotions more so, right? Aside from other factors, it's just, that's integrated. That's pnimi, that's from within. But the sun is equally shining for all of us. Not so much here in Montreal right now because it's cloudy, but that's only because there's clouds, right? That's the only reason. That's makif, right? So light is makif. And in makif, so we have a straight light and a rebounding light. Right. Now, another idea of straight light is what we call makif hakorev, is something that's close. It's a encompassing light that is close, right? Which means that it will be ultimately revealed. Right? Then you have a light that is the rebounding light. Why is it rebounding? It's sort of like not staying here. It's rebounding back. Why is it rebounding back? Because it's beyond. It's what we call a encompassing light that is beyond. And why does it mean it's beyond? It means it won't reveal itself. As we explained, it won't reveal itself. So if it won't reveal, what's its point? If I don't have any conscious awareness of something, then what's the point? If I don't know, then, well, again, there's so many things of our soul that subconsciously were affected, right? Like I mentioned before about the chumash inside the bassinet, right? That were effective. How are you affected? Well, from a distance, yeah. It's not, close at hand, because close at hand means I'm affected. It may not be affected now, but eventually I'll become aware. It might take 40 years, as the sages say, that that your master teacher, the Rebbe, right, can teach you something, and that you may only get it 40 years later. So what does it mean before that? It means before it was makif, right? It wasn't something that I got, right? As the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter 5 of Tanya, right? When you get something, actually, he says, the first part is before you get it, the idea is encompassing you because it's beyond you. But then when you get it, you encompass the idea. It's in you. And that's why Torah studies like food, because it is integrated. It becomes, you own it. It's yours. And you own it to such a degree that sometimes you learn something and you just say it as if it's your idea. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. I mean, Torah has to come and tell us, therefore, say it from who you got it from, because it's integrated. You get the idea. Oh, wow. And afterwards, you repeat it to somebody because it's so much a part of your mind and now and affects your heart, that's internalized, right? That you feel it's yours. You own it. And you do own it. You do own it. And that's, of course, the way it's meant to be. But sometimes you learn something and you don't own it until 40 years later, right? That, oh, now I get that teachings. I never, it always hovered over me. It was makif. But that's a makif akarov. That's something that's close, right? That's something that's close to you that is possible, that it's something that will integrate. And that's a true teacher will give you that. But a true master teacher, the Rebbe, will also give you something that's a karav arachik, that's distant, that in the end you'll never get because it's essentially hidden. So then why are you giving it? Because it's still a light, it's still a teachings, and it's still something that will affect you. How's it going to affect you? Not consciously, because you ain't going to get it. Not today, not in 40 years. Not in 40 years. But it's still makif, it's still a communication, it's still a teachings of God, right? That is given over in order that you should, in order that it affects you in a way that's beyond your awareness, your consciousness, your grasp. Okay, I'd love to continue. Oh my gosh, getting heated up. All right, I hope that was clear. Yeah. Okay, God bless. See you soon. It's a long Chumash and Rashi. I'm going to try to get here as fast as possible and start as early as possible because it's a lot today. All right. The 10th plague, you don't want to miss it. And the Exodus.